Good evening. I'd like to call to order the agenda review for the 17th day of September 2025. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Dollison, who is not present this evening, Commissioner Mercer.
Here.
Commissioner Dantzler.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yates.
Here.
And Mayor Birdsong.
Here. All right, we'll have invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance. We've got some proclamations. Are we going to do the safe neighborhoods? We'll do that at the end.
We can do that now if you like.
we can
This
do it
was
now.
this was at the request. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Apologize for
Okay.
not greeting you first. This is in response to, I think it was Commissioner Mayor Pro Tem Yates that had asked for an update on Spring Lake Square and
Oh, okay.
the items that were ongoing there. So Assistant City Manager Bird's going to provide that quick
All right.
update this evening.
Honorable Mayor and Commissioners. So to update everyone on the cases at Spring Lake Square, we have 3 active cases. I'll go through each one of them individually and when they started and where we're at today currently. So the information that I provide to you with numbers and where we're at is actually accurate as of today. The first one that we'll go over first is obviously the one that is the most talked about, which is Floridino's at 1919 8th Street Northwest. October the 14th of 2024, they were doing their damage assessments, and that building had been, a tree had fallen into it, which then gave us the ability to utilize our building, Brian Wells, and he condemned that building. At that point in time, a notice of violation was given. March, a special magistrate continued the case until April. April, the special magistrate ordered 120 days for compliance, which takes it into August. From there, in the beginning of September, there was a special hearing that was had in which Winbrand testified that they had Southern Majestic Homes as their contractor. Then they were going to try to start the bidding process. They were doing the locates, disconnects, and permitting. September, there was an asbestos survey that was also done. As of the 12th of this month, Winbrand's contractor has officially filed for a notice of demolition, or for a permit for demolition. I'm sorry, that was as of yesterday. That there was a letter applied for demolition permit. That was confirmed through our city team that has actually taken place. Currently, there are a total of $8,250 of fines that have been accumulated. Of that $8,250, let me backtrack. Whenever it's demoed, if Winbrand demos it as they are moving forward and saying that they are going to do, and they've been very upfront with our code and our building folks, sending them emails and showing that they are progressing that forward, then that will be done at no taxpayer cost. The $8,250 in fines, they have, just like every other person, can go before the special magistrate, request for a fine reduction. Generally speaking, if those are done, the actual costs to the city are incurred and they have to pay those.
Commissioners, if I could just offer a comment on that one. So this is one that the special magistrate had authorized the action to be for code compliance to go in and demo that building. In the process of doing that, getting prepared, they had a period of time in which they could come into compliance before we move forward with that demolition. They did not do so. We came back to the code compliance magistrate. He had asked to amend the order to give us access into it because we made them secure it. And once it's secured, we can't go into it. Kind of a downside of that. We're going to make some changes in our policies and our recommendations to prevent that from happening in the future. But before we could even move forward with the demolition and all the turn off of utilities and everything, they went ahead and started that process, and they pulled their own permit for demolition. So we cannot demolish it. You can't have 2 active permits on the property. So they are, the desired result is coming about, but they are the ones that are leading the charge on that, which is the ideal situation for our citizens at the end of the day. If I remember correctly, in speaking with Safe Neighborhoods Director Tanya Ayers, the anticipation based upon her dialogue with Winbrant Management Company was it would take 2 weeks to do that demolition. Permit was pulled yesterday, so hopefully by the end of this month or the first part of October, that building is gone.
And we're prepared, should they fail in that, to move forward with from the city standpoint to make the demolition as well.
Sorry, do we know what our hard costs are? You said 8250 in fines. I mean, what?
I don't know that hard cost. Generally, it's generally in the neighborhood of $1,000 or less.
Yeah.
Depends on how much time we've spent out there and doing that. So of that $8,250 is going to be very minimal. What we would, if they apply for a reduction and get granted that reduction, it would be very minimal what we collect.
And they usually, Mayor Protem, they don't get a full reduction. It's going to be a percentage.
Yes.
So, from $8,000, it could be that they may pay $2,000. It's that's up to the magistrate. But those fines, Charlie, what their daily accrual is?
Their daily accrual is, yes, sir. $250 a day.
So until that building is down, that register is still ringing every day, $250. So if it takes them 10 more days, that's another $2,500 on top of that just keeps building and building and building until the issue is resolved.
Correct. So,
and is time calculated into those hard costs? So I mean, we're sitting up here talking about it now. Is that factored into the hard costs going forward or no?
Not you all. It's when we talk about hard costs for the city, it is the time that our inspectors and investigators spend on that case.
There are some very specific statutory guidelines of what we can, as a city, recoup as actual costs in a code compliance situation. And so I think we follow that very carefully, and we prepare the appropriate affidavits at the code compliance hearing as to what are the city costs. As the city manager noted, if there is a reduction hearing, if it's appropriate for one to be had, that's sort of going to be generated by the property owner or Winbrand. The city's costs are never reduced. Those have to be paid, whatever those are, by affidavit that the code compliance officer's director certifies to the magistrate. And then, as the city manager noted, there could be some reduction in the actual fees or the code enforcement fines that have accrued.
And I'm just trying to educate myself on this. So, it's the norm for someone to make this request.
Oh, yeah.
For a reduction of fines.
Yeah, and I would even encourage, the best way to learn that process is to come to a code compliance special magistrate. There's one Thursday this week, as a matter of fact. In their proceedings, so let's say that you have a property that we have cited and it continues to be unimproved, that you've not mitigated the issue. We come back at future meetings and certify additional fines that have accrued since the last time. And we've done that in some cases multiple times. That's one of the procedures that happens in those. There is procedures for first offense cases that come before the magistrate. There's proceedings for repeat offender cases that come before the magistrate. And then usually the last thing is requests for reductions that are filed by people that have now come into compliance. They cannot request any consideration for a reduction in fines until they are fully in compliance. And there's all the documentation for that.
But we don't have a standard practice in place necessarily, do we? Okay, this is a first offender, we're always going to give them 50% off, or this is a third offender, we're going to give them 10%. We don't have any standard practices.
There's standard practices that, first of all, if it's a first offender, the process that it takes to get that before the magistrate has a little more cooperative spirit per se within it. If it's a repeat offender, it goes straight to magistrate. Okay, you know the problems and you've corrected them, and now you've allowed them to happen again. You're right back in here. there's no like warning or grace period to give you some time to get it up. It's right back in here. There is a standard policy or procedure with respect to what those fines would be reduced down to, and it's based upon a percentage that caps out at a certain percentage or a dollar amount. And I don't have that off the top of my head, but and of course the magistrate, given the circumstances that are presented in the evidence, can rule however he chooses within that.
The second property that we'll discuss is 1925 8th Street, which is just across the street from the Florentino's property. It's the Chile Verde. Again, October of 24, there was an inspection that was conducted. There were violations identified. They were given 60 days to come into compliance. In February of this year, a reinspection was conducted. It was set for, and they had partial compliance, so they fixed some of the things. Hearing was set for April 17th. April 17th, the special magistrate ordered 30 days for compliance, and then a $50 per day fine thereafter. As of May and recently, violations have not been corrected. Some of the violations have been, but not all of them. As the city manager said, they have to come into full compliance before they can even get to a point where they can start asking for reductions and everything.
Does that elevate at some point? So it starts out at 50, like, okay, it's gone 5 months and still hasn't had anything happen to it. Do we circle back to that?
We can request that. The code officer, depending on the situation, they can request for an.
It's more often than not if it's a repeat offense
Yes.
case. So for example, in this scenario, if they have violated the codes and they've articulated which code you violated, and they have come into compliance between the time they've been noticed the violation occurred and the magistrate hearing, it may still come forward to the magistrate. So the magistrate can adjudicate, yes, you were in violation on such and so date, but for purposes of repeat offender status, I'm finding that there was a violation. It may be cured now or it may be corrected, so that when they violate again, you can, as the city manager noted, immediately start fines assessing from the date that the violation is noted, and you can have a higher amount of daily accrual.
You can also have a situation where, you have 6 things that are in violation on that property and they're not, we go back and we reinspect. That's the documentation of when something comes into compliance. If your property is out of compliance and we've inspected it, it's still out of compliance, those fines are still accruing, we certify additional fines. Once you say, okay, I've fixed everything, we still have to come back out and inspect it and certify that those have been addressed. It is not inconceivable that somebody could have 6 or 8 violations on their property, and we go back out for a reinspection and find additional things because the property has continued to deteriorate. Maybe originally it was just high grass and broken windows, glazing issues. Now we go back and the roof has fallen in, or there's abandoned cars on the property, and so that elevates it even farther.
And just so you were clear, Mayor Pro Tem, the statute that we follow is Chapter 162, Florida statutes, and in particular 162.09, where it allows for a fine per day not to exceed $250 per day for a first violation, and it shall not exceed $500 per day for a repeat violation. And in addition, may include all costs of repairs that may have been made. If the magistrate finds the violation to be an irreparable or irreversible in nature, they can impose a fine not to exceed $5,000 per violation. It just depends on the facts and circumstances. So there is a ratcheting up, if you will, of the fine process, and you can fine up to $250 a day for the first violation. So depending on the severity, depending on the nature of the code, as the city manager noted, the number, there is some degree of flexibility at the magistrate level for the daily accrual. In this case, the previous case that we were talking about, it went to $250 a day immediately. And if it comes back as a repeat offense, it's $500 a day, likely immediately.
Yep.
And it could be a $5,000 fine, depending on the nature of the issue. So
one other thing I do want to comment, you mentioned you had the question about our hard costs, our direct costs. That includes staff time, but keep in mind, if it's a situation where it's high grass and we do a demand for removal, we can go in with our contractors and address that, and that cost is assigned back to that property. In the case of the Floridinos property, if we were to pursue the demolition on that, all of the costs associated with that demolition would be added to the fines, and those, if they're not paid, become a lien on the property. One of the additional costs that will be assessed on that particular property was we procured an asbestos survey, because you have to do that before you can move forward with demolition. That was a cost that we incurred, and even though we're not going to be the ones doing the demolition, or at least it does not, we don't anticipate that, the cost for that asbestos survey will be an expense that they have to pay. It'll compound with their fines.
And part of the, and as the city manager noted, there are certain things in the nature of mowing grass, removing trash debris, demolition that are considered special assessments. They specially benefit the property if we do the work. And you all sat a month or so ago as the equalization board, when you heard, there was some $32,000 worth of Navalines that are now going to be imposed on the tax bill. Well, that's what city manager was referring to in this case. The property owner who gets the tax bill for the Floridinos property, by way of example, they're going to get tagged with, if we had done the demolition or we had done anything that specially benefited that property. Not the code enforcement fines, that's different. But if we incurred a cost that was specific to that property, that's the theory. And we would do that. And we have, for the last couple of years, we hadn't done that because they just hadn't gotten to that level. But that's something we do and will continue to do likely.
The fine totals that have totaled up for the Chile Verde property is $6,150. Just to kind of reinforce what the city manager said, there were 10 violations cited at that property. 2 of them have been fixed, so there's 8 still violations. So that kind of gives you the idea that we keep track of all that. The final one is pretty much the Havendale Strip Plaza as a whole. That's from the corner that's up on Havendale Boulevard all the way down and bound down toward the theater. So it encompasses that whole property there. Again, October of 2024, an inspection was conducted. A notice of violation was given to the owner with 30 days of compliance. Re-inspections were conducted. Partial compliance occurred. In this particular situation, there were 15 violations. Again, there's been 3 that have been corrected. That's all so far. So they're not in compliance. The fine totals for that property as a whole has been $4,650 accumulated so far.
Charlie, do you know can you give an example of what's included in those violations at present?
Fence maintenance, junk, trash, and debris, loose garbage, exterior walls in poor condition. It's my understanding they're going to be looking at that again, because I think that our code compliance officer was out there trying to sit down with the managing group to see what the plan was, because we want to hear what the plan that they're trying to do. And I think that there's been some progress made, but I don't want to report on that without having actually had an inspection done. Overhang extension issues, roofs and drainage, sign maintenance. If you look at the signs are obviously in need of some repair. Some of the signs are advertising businesses that are no longer on site, and that's a violation as well. Just to give you a few of the examples.
Do we think that the homeless camp that was taken apart over where the 17 overpass is, over the canal, over the chain of lakes there, have they moved down to this area, or what's that situation look like?
They're moving everywhere. Anytime you displace, they move. Yes, we're seeing, and there's an influx of transient, not transient, but that's what they are. They're from other locations that are coming into town for various reasons that we're running down to see if we can mitigate that as a whole. I know Chief Monroe and Deputy Chief Gorick are working on those things. When it comes to, we have a new program the chiefs have kind of unveiled recently with trespass signs, which are very similar to what you see Sheriff Grady Judd signs that have the signs on there that say it's trespassing. He just was showing those at the problems that they're having down at the lake and in the private properties down there. This gives our police officers the ability to arrest. So the property owner gets the signs, posts them. They give us any names that are allowed to be. So any people that are in charge of that property, if they're not around, gives us those names. And if you're not one of those names that's given, you're arrested on site, as opposed to currently what we have to do is catch you on the site. We have to have a trespass authorization form from the property owner, and then we trespass you, and then you go on your merry way. And if you show back up again, we got to chase you down. This gives us the ability to do more of a proactive arrest procedure for these vacant properties that they're going into.
I just want to be sure that we're not close to potentially violating the state statute that recently passed about, okay, well, you have homelessness, we're not providing anything because you have home, are we clear of any issues there?
Yeah.
Potentially?
So the statute in a nutshell basically says that you cannot allow for homeless encampments on public property unless you have designated that property for such purpose and you provide certain services to accompany it. Everything from restrooms and utilities to wraparound social service, programs. We work directly with, going back to the Lake Lulu property. Portion of that land is owned by us. The majority of it's owned by the county. The county advanced their efforts to clean up that property, and it's more so than it being the homeless population. There was more about the amount of debris and trash and just filth that came about. It becomes an environmental hazard. It becomes a life safety hazard. So we worked in partnership with them to clean up that property. Where those individuals displaced to is, I don't want to say it's impossible to track, but it's extremely difficult. Now, the Polk County Homeless Coalition does a lot of tracking. They do the point in time count in January each year and head that up. Where those individuals relocate to, whether it's as a full group or individually, is a little hard to say. There was some homeless activity in the area of the Floridino's restaurant in particular, and that's why the need for the fencing around it was an immediate direction from the magistrate when that case went to before him. But we see, the property north on 17 that we're working to acquire, the Astute Financial, or the Kerr property as we call it. We know that there's homeless that are living out on that property. That's at present time private land. So we can't really do anything about that unless the owner says, hey, I don't want this. Can you help me deal with it? We had some encampments along the Chain Lakes Trail north of Motor Pool Road. And you may recall in the last year, we went and did a massive cleanup in that area. We got some grant money from the state. That allowed us to address that population that was there, and they move on from that. That may be some of what's on the Kerr property. It's hard to say. We watch closely. I mean, we've got certain areas that we know we have that are city properties where we get some congregation. Lake Howard Dock. We do a special patrol on Lake Howard Dock every day to prevent that. The waterfront around that dock, down below like Beamer Church, has been a problem area that we continue to address. The corridor of US 17 across just south of the property we're talking about, so right on the edge of Lake Spring, there's been folks that have taken up residence down there. So as we know those areas, we're going through you can't be here. Can't tell you where you can go, but you can't be in these public lands, and it's a constant moving issue that we just figure out, in terms of public lands, where do we have problems, and we address those. If we have trespass authorizations, or as these signs go up on private properties, that gives us some more ability to address that. And our effort is always, it's not a crime to be homeless. I'm going to make that abundantly clear. But where you can be, there's ordinances and there's private property rights that dictate that, and that's what we work to enforce.
Along those same lines, I got two questions. Number one, and this was suggested to me by a business owner downtown, is there any way we can put up security cameras in certain areas, or even fake security cameras where it looks like we're filming things, particularly in front of Richard's Coffee, for example, or places in the park where ladies are jeered when they walk in the coffee shop, or I get chastised for money. Just a lot of different things going up and down the park. And I'm wondering if we put some cameras up, even if they're fake cameras, but, put some of these signs up you're talking about, try to get them to move on and not be in front of these businesses chastising, particularly women, is what I keep hearing.
We're doing some new stuff with cameras. One of the newest ones that we've installed, and we're working with IT to do this in more locations, but Davis Park.
Where?
Davis Park,
Yeah.
right across from the hotel. So where we've been putting our big belly, I guess AI, for lack of a better word, trash units, we can actually connect to those, a post with a camera system on it. So if you walk through Davis Park, just north of the chamber, you'll see a post there that has a camera that gives us a bird's eye view of that entire park.
But does it have a sign where they know it? You know what I mean?
It doesn't have a sign that
I'm
says,
trying to think of more of a deterrent.
Yeah. and in anytime we do cameras, and certainly the attorney can advise me if he feels differently, but I would never recommend putting up dummy cameras, because it opens us up to a liability, in my opinion, that you have something there that's suggesting a level of protection that you don't actually have. Every one of our facilities that we operate, the goal is to put as much camera security around there. The upside of cameras is that they give you factual evidence when something happens, but they don't necessarily always prevent it from happening. Downtown, the big issue for us is, we had to repeal our panhandling ordinance, as you may recall. There's a violation of freedom of speech that comes into play with that. But our ordinance right now is what we call a sit, lay, lie ordinance, that you can't lay down on our sidewalks. You can't lay down on our benches. You can't sleep in our parks. And that's what we're able to enforce routinely. But just the presence of people is a challenge. The best way that I have found through my career, the best way to deal with an unwanted activity in public spaces is to have greater levels of positive activity in those areas. MLK Park's probably the best example. When nothing was happening at MLK, it was a haven for homeless activity. Once you activate that and you have other things going on, they don't necessarily want to be in that location. Again, it's not a crime to be homeless. We got benches downtown for anyone to use. And
it's not fair to the ladies wanting to go into Richard's Coffee to have to run the gauntlet, so to speak. So I think you should consider a few strategic cameras that are very visible and that will be a deterrent as well as anything. Because
certainly,
I think that would be welcomed by a lot of the business owners down there that deal with this on a daily basis, and up and down Central too. Just a few and even if you tell your police, hey, you're being watched right here, I think they'll go somewhere else.
and
They
that's
might
not,
blame themselves
it's
for
not a
that.
bad idea. I certainly don't disagree with it. I think the other piece that we are doing a lot more of is just a greater police presence. In the early mornings, if you were to go downtown between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., there's a whole lot of police that are moving about through that area, checking alleys, checking door fronts. As we, throughout the day, walking the parks, getting out. I just noticed the other day we have a new bike unit that was cruising through our parks downtown, just rolling up on people, and kind of that surprise effect. And that's, again, one of those those deterrents that we're trying to do more of, just to have a greater presence.
I think you're right. All those things would help, but there's just a few hot spots.
Right.
The other question, Chief, is about these buildings. Some of them are beyond repair oftentimes. Anything we can do? I mean, is there anything we can do to condemn them and tear them down? Or somebody told me, oh, we're getting a dumpster in there, we're going to clean up. I said, can you get a dumpster big enough to put the whole damn building in there? I mean, because some of them are beyond repair.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So
And
how can you fix something? Well, just tear it down.
it takes the team with the building inspector to be able to do it, because some of these buildings that you may think should be torn down, the building inspector looks at it and says, it's got bones, so the owner can do something with it. I can't condemn it.
can't.
But for the most part,
That's the code side of it.
That's the code
really,
side.
so like Floridino's is the best example of that. They had planned to try and submit plans to rehab that building in its current condition.
Yep.
And in the building division said, no, it's not salvageable.
Yeah, put the whole thing in a dumpster.
Yeah.
That's
So
part
that's
of
what
it.
led to the demolition on it.
There's also the building official under Florida statute that we have, Brian Wells, has certain authorities to declare buildings unsafe, uninhabitable, unfit, subject to demolition.
Do we have a mechanism, John, where a building can get to that point where we can actually do that? Is what I'm
Yes.
trying to get
Yes.
to.
Yes, we do.
Because
And we're
that's so
doing it.
bad that we don't try to, hey, you got to fix it, you got to paint it,
Yeah.
whatever. You got to just
Yes,
get
sir.
it out of there.
There is a process. Floridino's is an example of that. And the key from a liability perspective is due process. You've got to give that property owner and anyone that might have an interest in that property, a mortgage or what have you, notice. This is coming. This is coming down the pike. We're going to have a hearing where these issues are going to be, from our magistrate that will be adjudicated, or the building is posted with very clear and conspicuous signs by our building official, shutting it down, putting a bar, across it or what have you. Yes, we have those and we do avail ourselves of those.
All right, that's good.
In the skate park, I had someone every day. I see them at Richards and they are telling me more and more about that.
Maybe cameras is the answer. I don't know. We got to do something though. It's not fair to the people that are trying to make a living down there and that want to go in and get a cup of coffee or go shopping to be, chastised like that. I don't like it. Anyway, I'm through.
No one else?
thank you.
All right. Okay. We'll have the minutes and then we'll move on to the ordinance's second reading. We've reviewed these several times.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, one thing I do want to just share with you on budget. With Monday, the intent is not to go through the whole presentation again, but AJ, can you pull my slide up for me, please? This is just this is the 26 budget in a nutshell. This slide that I think is a very valuable tool for you and anybody else that receives questions about the budget, but it just highlights the very specific aspects of what our focus is on, that it is balanced. It is $45 million less than it was the year before. The millage rate remains unchanged. Our ad valorem's increased to a total of 31 million. And where that money, the increase in that is coming from new development. We do have 31% forecasted to be our general fund balance. This provides you the insight on the employees of 766 positions. And then off to the right, major focus areas on public safety with what we're doing there, on economic support through our partnerships, as well as what we're doing with affordable housing, the homeless initiative, where it says small business program, that is the CDFI that Hartford Winter Haven is preparing to launch, and then some highlights on the focus on infrastructure. So this is the summary that Mr. Carnevale will provide in my absence Monday evening. Just wanted you to be aware of that.
We're setting aside that CDFI money, right? We're not, it's
It's-
not obligated to be spent yet.
No, it's in the budget. There's an appropriation of $500,000. So once they're ready, they've cleared everything. And I understand that they are there. They've just got a few last things that they've got to do, but they've got their IRS approvals and whatever else at the federal level. We will appropriate to them what's already earmarked in the budget of $500,000, and that will be the equity that they have to then issue out loans to qualifying small businesses or whomever else their CDFI is intended to serve within our immediate community.
But that doesn't get distributed until they're 100% ready to go. 'Cause last update I had was it was going to be another year.
Yeah, I met with Brad Beatty probably 2 weeks ago, and I think it may be before the end of this calendar year is what he had shared with me. So unless something has changed, but we've got it there for him. We want to see that program succeed, see it's something positive for the community.
I know you guys can distribute those funds, but you'll update us when that
It will come
happens
before you.
and- Okay.
Yeah. That's my intent, is that when we're ready to do that, my preference would be for him to come give a presentation to the commission on specifically how that's going to work.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
All right, so that would be 9A and B. So then comments from the audience. We have no second readings. The consent agenda.
So a couple items starting right off on the consent agenda within the water department. For the past several years, the account services has collaborated between Smart Energy Water, a program we call SEW, and another provider called First Billing Services to do different parts of our billing in accounts payable. So First Billing has been responsible for dealing with the back end duties of payment, while SEW is the face of our portal. So they're doing two different parts of that process. And the reason we did two of them was that neither company could provide all the services as one singular contract at the time. So at this point, SEW is able to provide the customer payment options, as well as the call centers. And we're looking to discontinue our services provided by FBS, which is the billing portion of that. A couple of things that I was appreciative that staff pointed out within this is, how does this affect our customers? By doing this, our customers will now be able to use Google and Apple Pay in the office. So that's becoming much more prevalent, as well as on the portal, the computer or the web-based portal, and in the mobile app. They'll still have access to live agents. They will have to perform a one-time re-enroll for those that are on auto pay, and we're setting up a whole campaign to educate them on that. And they'll also have more efficient service due to streamlined software systems that help navigate a more user-friendly portal. So this is a 5-year agreement with SEW that we think will improve our overall customer service within account services. The second item that's on the agenda kind of goes hand in hand with this, and this is an agreement with Datamax Printing and Mailing Services. So FBS, or First Billing, has historically managed the printing and the mailing of our customer bills. Because we're stopping our contract with them, the water department will take on the direct management of the printing and the mailing of bills. FBS utilized Datamax to perform that service, so we are engaging Datamax to work directly with our staff, and we'll be responsible for that now. So we'll have SEW that's doing all the portal and the payment, and Datamax that is helping us with us controlling the billing and all of that. Amanda and Kyle are here. Anything beyond that that stands out? So I think we've got a big focus going on right now of how do we improve customer service within our water department. And I say improve customer service. It's not necessarily on the staff end, but how do we improve our operations to better benefit the citizen? We're doing things that speak directly to how do we have a shorter call wait time, a quicker processing for people that are coming in. We've made some changes to our hours of operation there. We have public affairs and communication working on a campaign with a third party to do better education for our public on how we do things and how we improve the overall service delivery at the end of the day. So really focusing in on how do we improve that experience for our customers. The next item I'm going to ask City Attorney to speak to. This is dealing with opioid litigation.
Thank you, City Manager. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I'm asking for the approval to go into the portal for the approval of settlement agreements with Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family. And then there are approximately about 9 of what we refer to as secondary manufacturers that are identified in the fact sheet. And so there are 2 separate settlements. One, I have to, on behalf of the city, sign in and agree to the settlement by September 30th. That's Purdue Pharma. And the other one has to be done by October 8th. And what that means is and I don't know what the exact dollars are. The Florida Attorney General's office has forwarded this to me. And the information that I've gleaned that's in the fact sheet is from that data that they have provided to us. And you may recall that when we originally entered into settlement agreements back in 2021, I believe, 2021, Polk County is doing a Polk County, Florida opioid abatement plan that is compliant with all of the necessary prerequisites and requirements that allow for the use of these settlement funds to help, frankly, abate the opioid crisis within our community. And we have entered into an interlocal agreement and a number of other communities within Polk County have as well, that basically will assign whatever proceeds we get as a result of our population or as a result of our demographic, the population mainly, that we assign that over to the county, and the county handles it through their Polk County, Florida opioid abatement plan. So these are additional funds. You can see that the numbers are quite large based on the overall totals. And I have tried to articulate as best I can, and I'm sorry it's not more definitive, but for example, out of all of the funds that are going to be available with these particular settlements, Polk County, the regional percentage that the county gets is 2.15% of all that number. And then Polk County, of that 2.15%, Polk County will get as an individual entity 1.55%, and Winter Haven would be entitled to 0.09% of that 1.55% of that 2.15%. So it's a very, I'm sorry, I cannot tell you what the dollars are that are allocable, but I will tell you.
You can calculate them. What's the total?
I don't, Mayor or former Commissioner Dantzler, the totals are listed here as to what these secondary manufacturers and others are proposed to pay.
We don't have the top number.
We don't know what those numbers are with specificity. The reason I'm presenting this to you tonight is so that we can timely, or I can, on behalf of the city, timely DocuSign those settlements so that they are then assigned over to Polk County, and then Polk County will manage them and report on them and use them for the Polk County opioid abatement plan that they've already got approved. By signing the settlement agreements, we will be releasing claims that we may have against these manufacturers, the Purdue Pharma, the Sackler family, and these other secondary manufacturers. There may be more that come down the pike, but I just wanted to apprise you of that, make sure that we get the official authorization to say, go ahead, DocuSign these things, and then we'll move forward. The City of Auburndale is also doing that. Those are the top, those are the cities based on the population that they have
Right.
that are involved in these settlements. Now, there are other cities that are not involved in these because their population levels don't rise to the level that Winter Haven does. Bartow is involved in it, obviously.
We
Haines
have
City.
no idea how much money it is.
I mean, I don't. I'm sorry to say that it's probably, I don't want to give you a number that's a guess. And I've had conversation with the city's finance, the CFO. And I mean, to the extent that when we get the information, when we understand what the numbers are, we'll certainly report back to you so that we can be apprised of what that is.
We get 0.9% of 1.5% of 2.9%. Is that?
I believe that is,
0.09%.
it's 0.09
of 1.5
of
which is-
2.15.
of 2.15.
Because that settlement is a national settlement.
Well, and part of the thing is some of them may pay, for example, Mylan was to pay approximately $290 million over 9 years. Or HICMA may immediately pay up to $98 million, or they can provide approximately $35 million of its naloxone product, or up to an additional $7 million. Amneal may pay up to approximately $74 million over 10 years, or they could provide a generic version of the drug Narcan in an equivalent value to the jurisdictions to allow for the opioid abatement plan to be effectuated. So there's
Nuances.
it's nuances, and it's hard. I don't want to mislead anyone. It's probably going to be hopefully some amount of money that will be helpful for Polk County. And as we get further down the road and as the numbers become more available to us, I'll certainly report back to the commission. I'm sorry, I can't be more specific on that.
Go ahead, Tracy.
John, do we know what it's going to be used for? Is it treatment or whatever along that line?
That's a good question, Commissioner Mercer, and I would defer to the county's opioid abatement managers of that plan as to what their strategies are going to be. I'm not prepared to discuss that tonight, but they have a plan that is compliant. Some of it likely is that, and other outreach type of things. I'm sure it's not unusual. I mean, it's probably going to be similar to what other counties in Florida are doing. And frankly, as the city manager noted, this is a nationwide thing.
And as I remember correctly, Commissioner Mercer, I do know that plan included treatment and education were two of the big ones that were within that. But, the reason that you have that at the county level, it's more effective. They're in a better position to deal with the opioid crisis countywide versus each of the 17 municipalities trying to do that individually.
Okay.
That's it for that one. That is as far as I have to offer this evening. If you have any questions that I can answer, I'll try.
Item 12D, I'm going to ask Fire Chief Drew Newbrand to give you an update on this. This is our memorandum of understanding for emergency medical services.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This agenda item is a memo of understanding for our delivery of emergency medical services. It basically just memorializes our current day practices with responsibilities as it pertains to providing advanced life support to our residents. Some of the key takeaways within this MOU is a direct relationship with identifying the medical director in which we fall under, which currently this time is Dr. Banerjee in the Office of Medical Direction for the county. Other key takeaways include the replacement of all of our EMS supplies, all of the soft supplies and hardware, major hardware as it pertains to patient care is provided by Polk County at no cost to us as a city. Some of our major responsibilities we have to meet certain standards in regards to our patient care reporting practices, which we currently already meet. And this document just formalizes all those practices, so neither party can really change those at whim without some type of conversation back and forth. This document's got a 3-year term to it. 30 days, either party can terminate that as needed with written document. It has been through the city attorney at this point in time for review as well.
And this is not a new item. This is it's a new MOU, but we've historically had an MOU. You know, if our ALS units go out with cardiac mitigation drugs, all those items are coming to us from Polk County. They oversee our ALS services at the end of the day. So it just formalizes what those roles and responsibilities are.
Yes.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.
Next item is pertaining to the Cultural Arts Advisory Committee. So as you recall, this was established back in 2017. You have 2 seats that are up. Their terms are up. Seat 3 and 4 will expire at the end of this month. Holly Scoggins with Polk State College has sent a letter of resignation for her seat, which was seat 3. Zach Marius, who serves in seat 4, has signed a reappointment letter. We did receive 2 additional applications. The CAAC met to review those and are recommending the commission fill seat 3 by Tabitha Keith and to reappoint Zach Marius. Both those terms would expire September 30th of 2028. Next item is the PBA collective bargaining agreement. I'm sorry, I skipped the Neighborhood Service Center. My apologies. Neighborhood Service Center. So this is property that has been leased by the city to the Neighborhood Service Center, Inc. since 1981. Since that original lease, there's been 3 extensions. The most recent will expire on October 25th of this year. This lease entitles the Neighborhood Service Center to utilize city-owned property for community outreach. The term of this lease commences on October 25th, 2025. It goes for 1 year, and then it's renewed successively. So this is a little different from what we had in the past. The prior ones were longer term without the renewals, and so it would come back every 10 years. This one just automatically renews every year going forward. It spells out what the requirements are for the Neighborhood Service Center to occupy that with respect to insurance and various maintenance responsibilities, as well as what the city's responsibilities are. The NSC also has to pay all the utilities on that building, and their fee to us is $1 per year to provide those services. And as you all know, Felicia is doing a phenomenal job out there. That building is just active every day of the week, it seems. So really, really happy to see this come forward. Okay, 10G is the PBA collective bargaining agreement. So as you know, we have a union that represents our police officers and sergeants. It's the Police Benevolent Association, Inc. They have represented the police officers since 2018. In October of 24, they enacted a collective bargaining agreement that remains in effect until September of 27. And each year that agreement provides for a reopener prior to October 1st of each year for the purposes of negotiating wages in up to 2 articles. Sean Dykes, our Human Resources Director, along with our personnel labor attorney, have worked that negotiation side on behalf of the city. On August 13th, the city and PBA teams tentatively agreed upon CBA changes that included the wages that I had presented for the rest of the workforce, absent the fire department, that would be increasing the starting rate of pay by 5% and then incumbent police officers and sergeants by 6%. This is consistent with what we're doing throughout the rest of the organization and is what's included in the budget. They did hold a ratification vote, and of the 49 members, it was reported back to us that 42 of the 49 voted in favor of that. So the agreement is ready for presentation to the commission to be approved, and those adjustments in pay will take effect October 1st. So successful negotiations, very cordial, and I want to thank Sean and Greg Herring and his team for helping us navigate that. We're hopeful that we'll be able to bring to you something similar with the IAFF, that's our professional firefighters. It's your next commission meeting as well. So fingers crossed that we get to that point. Next item is travel and training. Mayor Pro Tem Yates has been duly elected to serve on the FLC Board of Directors. And so he's got a number of meetings that he's going to have to attend over the course of the year. And this just authorizes the travel. All of those costs are reimbursed by the Florida League of Cities. So
Are you in line to move up?
I hope not.
I don't think so. Usually when you go on these boards, there's an obligation to get in line. Okay.
it's a long line. There's a bunch of people on that board, as I recall.
Yeah, Ridge League has that standard of moving up, each year, but for the league in general, no, you'd have to run for those additional
That's right.
seats for election.
And Mayor Pro Tem, am I correct that you will be the president of the Ridge League of Cities beginning September of next year?
Correct.
The next item is travel and training for myself. As I mentioned, I'll be speaking before the House Select Committee on Property Taxes next week in Tallahassee, September 22nd, 23rd. So this is just approving that travel. There has been one change to this. The accommodations for me for Monday evening are covered by the league, but based upon the timing of the meetings that start Monday, I'm going to go the night before. So there will be that singular expense that we'll cover through the city manager's office. And then the last item is pertaining, this is a ratification of an emergency purchase that I had done previously this summer. As you know, picking up garbage is one of our everyday activities we have to do. Back in May, we got to the point where because of maintenance issues and the availability of parts, we were only running 4 of our residential side loaders. That's all we had available to service residential garbage. It actually takes us 8 to be able to do that appropriately. So to address the circumstances, we determined it was necessary to rent some automatic side loader trucks to ensure that we could provide those services. We did that through RDK Truck Rentals, where they provided 4 of those trucks to us at a cost of $8,500 per truck per month. We had intended that was only going to take us from May until June. That would be enough time to cover that. And certainly that was within my spending threshold. However, these issues with pack cylinders and other critical components of garbage trucks continue to be an issue they're hard to acquire. The lead time is not improved at all. So we have maintained the rental of those trucks, and it will extend until likely the end of this month. The total cost for those rentals through the end of September is $136,000, which is paid directly from the Solid Waste Residential Fund. So again, this was an emergency authorization that I did, but given the dollar amount, asking the commission to ratify that emergency purchase justification and the issuance of the change order in the additional amount of $102,000 for the rental of those vehicles. We have a number of vehicles that, we're acquiring new vehicles, and we're exploring lease options that may be out there as well to give some greater resiliency within the fleet. But we are able to perform the services as expected through this measure.
All right, thank you. Then we have one resolution, R2548.
Thank you, sir. So this pertains to the Grant and Aid Application Review Committee that was established back in 2021. And one of the things that we did was the actual committee to help review the submitted applications. In 2022, the commission approved Resolution 2219, which established the committee. The committee was initially formed by each individual commissioner recommending a particular individual for appointment to serve a 3-year term. This resolution 2548 updates certain elements of the application review committee. First off, it removes specific committee member names from the resolution. So when we set that up originally, we had the 5 individuals and they were included by proper name within that resolution. So it cleans that up. It requires that when we have vacancies that come about on that committee, that they be advertised by the city clerk for new applications to come in. The applicants would be reviewed by my office. We would make a recommendation to the city commission, and the appointments would be made by a vote of the 5 seated city commissioners. Text has been updated from the original resolution to convey that annual meeting timeframes instead of specific dates, again, allowing some flexibility in how those are laid out. Also, the original resolution identified 3 specific staff titles as ex officio members. Due to changing organizational structure, title changes, personnel changes, the new resolution allows for the city manager to appoint up to 3 ex officio members annually. As it stands right now, one of those is the Director of Diversity and Inclusivity. It's a position we no longer have. It includes the Procurement Officer. It also includes, I believe it was titled as the Chief Accountant. So this just gives us the opportunity to put other people into that. It could be the Community Engagement Manager. It could be the Budget Manager, the Procurement Officer, but there would be 3 ex officios to be appointed to help provide guidance to that committee as they deliberate on the applications. There is, Katrina, as I understand this, there's 1 seat that's open right now. Can you remind me whose seat that is? So, okay, so we have 1 seat that is open, and what we would do is advertise for people to apply for that, review those applications, and present that back. Still of the approach that people that serve on that committee not be in any type of leadership role within their an applying agency. We try and find people that are connected to the community and understand the roles and services that nonprofits provide. And so that's the one seat that we need to fill.
All right, questions? We have no ordinances, first reading, and we have 1 new business item.
So the one new business item, we've discussed this a couple times, both in budget briefings and I think since then, but Southeastern University, located in Lakeland, is expanding into downtown Winter Haven and will occupy the 2nd floor of the Exchange Building, which is the former BB&T Bank off of Magnolia Avenue. They intend to maintain administrative, faculty, and a student presence at that location. I understand they've already executed that lease and may be moving in some of the administrative people already. So in order to facilitate that expansion into downtown, a contribution agreement between the city and Southeastern has been developed. This agreement identifies certain performance metrics that are to be achieved by Southeastern over the next 3 years. And then subject to the successful completion of those annual performance metrics, the city shall contribute up to $50,000 per year to Southeastern. So a total investment from the city over the course of 3 years of no more than $150,000. We will account for that $50,000 this year based upon what we anticipate to be interest income that always seems to be a little bit higher than what we budget that very conservatively, and then we'll budget accordingly for years 2 and 3. We've discussed this at length with Southeastern. Some of the things that they'll be doing is they have their cohort classroom settings. I think they have 4 or 5 of those already scheduled to occur here in Winter Haven. Those are 3 and 4 day periods where they're bringing in students. They'll stay in Winter Haven. They're eating at Winter Haven restaurants, using our hotels, and taking their classes in that building. So having a presence of a university downtown is something that we felt was of great benefit to Winter Haven and to our residents as well.
Mr. Mayor, I got a question.
Yes.
And it's a question for John. John, I'm a teacher. I'm a professor do I need to recuse myself on this vote? I'm actually getting paid, so I'm wondering if I need to not vote on this.
Yeah, you probably ought not to vote on this one. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's
Professor Dance.
Yeah, call me professor.
okay.
How do you teach?
Finance.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
I dispense wisdom to all those little minds of mush and actually get paid. So, I feel like I don't think you should vote on this is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Go for it.
Yeah, Form 8B, if the clerk will get that ready to go for Monday.
Don't forget,
I won't.
professional.
Professor.
Will this be on the test?
Yeah.
All right, then we'll have Commissioner liaison reports and.
Mr. Mayor, I do have one thing
Yeah.
for city manager's report that,
Oh, okay.
if I can. I want to take an opportunity to introduce you to two new staff members, ask them to come forward. Jaheda Amaze and Malcolm Wiggins. These are two of your new staff members that are going to be leading us at Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center. They've been with us for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, somewhere in there.
2.5.
2.5, okay, goes fast. Jay, as she goes by, is a resident just to the north of us in Lake Alfred, and Malcolm has actually relocated from the Pasco County area to here in Winter Haven to take this job. So I just wanted to give them a chance to introduce themselves to you, and you can grill them with whatever questions you desire. Jay?
Well, let's start. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Jaheda Maes, and I am honored to be the new facility manager for the new Winter Haven Recreational and Cultural Center. I bring over 25 years of experience in event management, facility operations, and community engagement by being part of the opening teams at the Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts in Orlando, Osceola Heritage Park in Kissimmee as well. These experiences allow me to grow programs and provide arts and recreation to our communities. I am completely excited. I'm extremely excited to be with Malcolm and the team. We have been welcomed incredibly. I've never been welcomed this way in any job I ever had, and it's a big deal. I have said this to our city manager and to Julie and to Scott. It's an incredible city. I'm honored to be here. I'm only 50 minutes away in Lake Alfred. I love the community. Been around for 3 years now. Don't want to go back to the other side of Central Florida. I want to stay here. So excited to be here. And we are going to build a unified team, and we're going to welcome our community to an exciting and beautiful building. I keep telling our contractor that they should put it up for a national prize. That's how good this building will be, in my opinion. So I am honored to be here, and this is Malcolm, my right hand.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Malcolm Wiggins. It's nice to meet everybody. I've been working here for 2.5 weeks, and I've been in the recreation scene for about 5 years. These 2 weeks have taught me that there's more to learn, more to know, and that makes me really happy. The support that I've been given, the opportunity to learn from peers, from supervisors, managers, from fellow coworkers at the field house, it makes me really excited, more than I thought I could be. As the building is ramping up to be opened, I'm most excited about following the city's mission on a daily basis and creating that recreation space for residents of all ages. Thank you.
So they've hit the ground running, housing them down at the field house so that they're learning the nuances of operating a high-performing facility through one that we have, and training with Jen Burke and the rest of the team that are there, getting involved in seeing how the new building is going to operate and laying out the plan for that. So,
All right. Well, welcome. Anything else?
just a reminder that I will be gone Monday. You're in good hands with DCM Carnivale here, and hopefully everything goes just as smooth as it can.
And just prayers for Commissioner Dantzler as he has to endure another weekend of college football. So.
Bye.
Motion to adjourn. Move. We adjourn.